This is 1480 KRAE Cheyenne.
Also being heard on translator K266CC Cheyenne at 101.1 FM.
Right now on 1480 K-Ray, it's time for the Pro Show, featuring the only father and son sports talk show talking about the local sports scene as we take a look back and look ahead to upcoming events around our area. The Pro Show is on now, right here on 1480 K-Ray. Good morning and welcome to the Pro Show. I'm Larry Proietti along with Nick Proietti. We are hoping to have a couple of guests join us here today. Brand manager for WyoPreps, David Settle, who we've had on the program before. I do believe he's kind of in the middle of something right now, so he hopefully will get back to us in a little bit. And then we're going to talk with Mark Puev, who is the athletic director at Laramie County Community College. So here on a Tuesday, Nick, we do pretty much our local teams that we get a chance to talk about. And I guess, should we go with the county matchup first, since we were over in Pine Bluffs this past weekend? Because it was not too bad of a weekend for both Burns and Pine.
We'll probably just go in order and at least start with Class 4A again, as that's where we were hoping to talk with David, and again, hopefully he will call back soon.
That's
or at
why,
least get a hold of his buddy. But I'm just saying, again, either way, we'll still talk about it. Again, let's get into it with Class 4A, where the weekend that was, especially where, again, for us, our first contest was on Friday at the Thunderdome at Cheyenne East. Again, Cheyenne East hosting Campbell County. For a weekend that was, where, again, it was Northeast versus Southeast. Again, those Northeast teams coming on down to take on the Southeast Quadrant. It was a complete bloodbath, including Friday, where Cheyenne East on both the girls' and boys' side were the only bright spots. Outside of that, again, South, Laramie, Central all got defeated on Friday.
Right.
But again, as we focus on our main contest, again, Campbell County and Cheyenne East, starting from the girls' aspect with the Lady Thunderbirds, shaky.
But what a performance by Brady Schlabs.
Yeah, again, Brady Schlabs absolutely really stepped it up. I think also, too, again, we look with Brown, what she was able to do. That was kind of a quiet night for her again, on the defensive side, again, using her height on the inside. Again, some interesting moments. Again, you could kind of see a little of the freshman mistakes out there for Cheyenne East, but give credit to Campbell County, that is a force to be reckoned with. The Lady Camels are a team to keep an eye on, especially in that East Regional Tournament. They're going to shock a few folks, and they shocked a few this past weekend. It's something that, was a scenario that East played down to Campbell County, or was it Campbell County is just that good? And I go with that latter of, again, the Lady Camels are that good. Got to respect that team out of the Northeast Quadrant. Is it a Lady Camels team that can upend Cheyenne East in the regional tournament, could upend in the state tournament, or again be a state championship contender?
Yes.
I don't see it. Again, I still put them a little bit behind Cody and Cheyenne East, but I'd put them as a close 3.
Oh, see, here's where I disagree with you. The Lady Thunderbirds got an off night from Cammie Curtis. She's hitting 50% from the field. She had an off night against the Lady Thunderbirds. She gets hot. This is a gal that shoots 50+% again. And I really liked the Latke kid, where she basically penetrated in the paint. She basically could have put up about 30 points on her own. So she's a very fast young lady who's not afraid to take it inside, and she'll go up against the bigs. Going back to Brown for Cheyenne East, it was a quiet double-double. But what she did in that contest, though, when she was plugging up the middle, that did shut down a little bit of that inside game by the Lady Camels. It forced them outside, and they couldn't hit. They got them on an off shooting night. On the other side of the coin, if you look back at Cheyenne East, Brady Schlabs was just superb. Boy, you want to talk about an MVP performance. We saw it there Friday night. Bowden Lilliadall had an off night. Also, Izzy DeLong got into early foul trouble. I think having Izzy on the floor, and again, she's about 5'7", 5'8", but she's a veteran, and what she does, and again, I always use the word intangibles. She can score 10 points a game. She can get about 2-3 steals a game. She's not afraid to go battle inside, but her defense is so tight And in this one, not so much that they were calling it tight. I didn't have any problem with the officiating in either one of the games. What happened was she got a little over aggressive, and again, that might be the adrenaline pumping, because again, it is Campbell County. And it is a program, whether it's Gillette or Thunder Basin.
Is the adrenaline the same level as, again, when you're at Story Gymnasium taking Cheyenne Central, again, in a full capacity crowd? Again, I think there's different, at least, aspects to again, both of those games. Again, it was just a regular season contest. Again, is there
playoff
again
atmosphere,
going
though.
into? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say in that building that Friday night, again, did that have playoff, at least a feeling to it? Not really, not in my opinion. Again, it was just kind of that normal regular season contest. If anything, for Cheyenne East and Lady Thunderbirds, the adrenaline, or at least what the rush is, especially for that Friday night, would be is you're still at that point in time a team that has not been defeated by a Wyoming opponent for about 2 years at this point. Is there a little pressure on that? At least, again, does that add to the adrenaline factor for that Friday night? Yeah, a little bit. But like I said, plain and simple, again, 9-point victory for Cheyenne East. It was – the final does not indicate of how close that game was, how close Campbell County had an opportunity to, again, pull off the quote-unquote upset on the road against Cheyenne. That's kind of the issue right now, is that – and as we break down this weekend that was, again, both boys and girls, it still brings up a concern where we go back to last week's program here, last Tuesday, where I told you, again, where all our Cheyenne teams were up on the road, competed against the Northeast and struggled up there. Now you said, hey, here's this opportunity to prove them wrong, or prove me wrong, saying,
right,
hey, at home, again, these teams don't travel well, so to speak. Well, guess what? They certainly did. They put up the fight. And it now adds more fuel to my concern regarding the Southeast quadrant, both boys and girls, of where we kind of tossed out saying, hey, Central East, for at least those 4 teams, should be guaranteed to go to the state tournament. Laramie on the girls' side as a possibility, or at least a great possibility. Laramie boys, maybe. Cheyenne South, an outside shot on the boys' side. Cheyenne South Lady Fight Bison, again, still struggling. But, again, there was the amount of teams, again, a couple weeks ago were a little bit higher than where I stand right now. Seeing what happened this past weekend in Class 4A, again, in those 2 quadrant battles, I now give a hell of a lot more respect to the Northeast, whether it is Sheridan, whether it is North Trona County, whether it is the 2 Gillette schools, that don't be surprised that they take up a good amount of those East Conference slots in the state tournament. They have a lot of talent. And, again, the standings kind of reflects that all 4 of those teams up there in that Northeast quadrant are just battling against themselves. It's a concern right now. Where I stand, again, post this weekend, and, again, we'll get into boys action. We'll talk about Saturday's surprises as well, too. Again, there was a big surprise that, again, regards Cheyenne East as well, too. But right now, East girls, East boys, I think are your guarantee. Central boys, I would say. The Central High Lady Indians right now, I put them as that team might get bounced down in the East Regional, where I thought they were a state tournament team. I now question, can they make it? Can they compete against 1 through 4? And I can include 1 through 4. Natrona County, they are really impressive.
Here's the deal. We've already said the East is the talented group on the ladies' side, all right?
Well, now we break it down to the Northeast, or at least 2 quadrants. Northeast quadrant is number 1.
Pretty doggone good. Right now, Central has kind of fallen off the Lady Indians. The Lady Plainsmen also found out that, hey, it's a little tough up north. Cheyenne South, unfortunately for Brody Epler, it's a struggle right now. But let's go back and look. And again, you and I disagree, because I've called more games than you've been around. And I'm telling you, that atmosphere in the Thunderdome was a typical, back in the day when it was Gillette High School and Cheyenne East, it had that playoff atmosphere. Again, what I liked about Campbell County is that, this is a team that definitely can possibly go all the way. And we are going to take a timeout. I do believe David Settle is going to, we lost him now?
No, he's on. We can go with him.
Oh, you can go. All right. Well, let's go to brand manager for WyoPreps, David Settle. David, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Larry. How are you today?
I'm doing well, man. Are you hanging in there? Because I know your schedule has to be, between the Plainsmen, Cowgirls, WyoPreps, doing your regular stuff with your radio station. Man, I wish I was 20 years younger because right now I'm looking at you and I got to take a nap.
I take it day to day, week to week, and I am thankful that I haven't traveled as much in the month of February as I did in December and January. Let me just put it that way.
All right. Hey, David, we were just rapping here about the Northeast Quadrant. Again, we can say, and unfortunately, I got to eliminate South out of this on the girls' side in Class 4A, but the East is absolutely phenomenal. Northeast, again, is starting to show their muscle. And what we're looking at here, who's going to come out of the East bruised and battered? Matter of fact, I think it's going to be the semifinal matchup 1 versus 2, which would be probably Cody and whoever is the number 2 seed out of the East for the semifinals to see if anybody can knock off Cody. But I'm telling you right now, this East is starting to get into some serious basketball.
Yeah, and it really has been for the last few years, Larry. It's one of those where the East has just been so dominant the last few years. And I think back to something, and I'm trying to remember what the exact stat was. It was just phenomenal last year, the domination that the East had against the West. And I was trying to quickly find the stat here, and my apologies for being a little bit late. But the East girls last year were 33-22 against the West teams, and I would say it's got to be way more dominant this year. I mean, you look at it, well, you got 2 teams on the entire west side of the state that are above 500 in girls basketball in Class 4A right now. Cody is right there. I think Cody and East are really neck and neck. And I've been impressed with the Phillies. I think they've added more of an offensive attack and part to their game versus they've been really defensive oriented the last 2 years. And I think that might make a difference for the Phillies guys. But East is there. Thunder Basin has really impressed me. I thought they were going to be a good team. I didn't know how good, but they've come on in the last few weeks. And Campbell County, I thought, would be really good. And obviously they got the head-to-head win against Thunder Basin in the first matchup. So the second one that comes around next week is going to be very intriguing. But you've got just so many good teams on the east side of the state right now. And I mean, I just saw Nashona come to Laramie and beat Laramie last Friday. Now, Laramie has been shorthanded without, in my opinion, their all-state point guard. She was out with an injury. She did come back and play Saturday, and that helped them beat Sheridan. So one of those situations where take your pick on the 4 that come out of the 7 teams, basically, I think taking out South, as you said, Larry.
You know, we go back, and we had Campbell County and Cheyenne East at the Thunderdome Friday night. And, again, this reminded me of Gillette teams of the past. Again, obviously now they're 2 schools. The Ladke kid at the point was just phenomenal. And we caught Cammie Curtis on an off night. And the Cheyenne East Lady Thunderbirds down the stretch nailed the free throws for that victory to make it look like it was a large win. I think Campbell County worked over the Lady Thunderbirds just physically. And Thunder Basin had that door open for them on Saturday to pick up that win. But I'm sorry to say it, those Lady Camels, I'm a little nervous about them.
I would be too. I think that stems from your head coach, Brady Luchin. She is a fantastic coach. This is her second year taking over the program. They grew leaps and bounds from Mitch Holtz's last year through her first year. I think they exceeded maybe some expectations at the regional tournament. And then I think they've just continued to take that next step. And, you know, the week you saw them last week, the week before in Gillette, they bombed away 13-14 threes against Laramie. And Curtis had an off game, but I believe it was Millie Riss who ended up with a double-double. She had 7 threes in that game. It was just phenomenal what ended up happening. And both those teams come at you in similar ways, but Campbell County, Brady Luchin's just down to the finite details, Larry. That backs up what you say. They are a very scary team to anybody that they're going to play because they can match up with you in different ways, and they can attack you in different ways.
And again, with that Camels team, that Lady Camels team, we saw it again, first and foremost, again, just the outside shooting. Once East kind of sagged off a bit on them, that, again, once they're red hot, they are on fire. And again, they got close within that ball game, even though, again, it was a 9-point win for the Cheyenne East Lady Thunderbirds. Girls, at least let's talk more about right now, again, in the Eastern Conference, where right now in the West, it's Cody, it's the Lady Phillies. They are the favorite, again, to possibly get back into that state title picture, at least state title game up there in Casper. But here, again, as we've seen over the past couple weekends, David, again, that Northeast-Southeast battle, it's been kind of predominantly won, whether it's on the road or at home, by the Northeast Quadrant. East, two-time defending state champions who are, at least at the beginning of the season, were the odds-on favorite to, again, get to that three-time three-peat possibly. But now, Thunder, Campbell County, Cheyenne East, I'll even toss out the Laramie Lady Plainsmen. Is there a team that still stands out to you, David, that is kind of the favorite to represent the Eastern Conference in Class 4A?
No, not right now, Nick, honestly, because you mentioned a bunch of teams I think that are in contention. I like I said, I saw Natrona and then watching Sheridan play some. I'm impressed by them at various points in times. What's going to be interesting is the regional. Can Cheyenne East prevail over maybe a Campbell County or a Thunder Basin? Because whoever ends up losing that championship game, you're going to see more than likely Cody in the semifinals. And if East isn't careful, they might end up losing a regional final to a Campbell County or Thunder Basin. And I'm curious to see what happens Thursday when East visits Laramie, because Laramie's played the East girls pretty tough at home the last few years. Haven't gotten over the top, and there's something different between playing tough and actually getting over the top and beating an opponent. But if somebody were to knock off the East girls in the 4A East Regional Championship, where they weren't the number one seed and wouldn't run into Cody, that would be an interesting one. Because if you finish second, you're going to more than likely see Cody. Cody is that good of a basketball team. I know everybody looks at it and goes, well, the West is weak and they're pounding on the West, but they've taken care of business against everybody. And that is a very, very strong team that goes 8 deep, maybe 9 deep at times that Coach Wagner has up there. They are very deserving of the number one ranking and very deserving of being in the conversation as a title contender. I mean, I think they've proved that getting to the championship the last 2 years. Like I said earlier, I think they've added a little bit more on their offensive game. But this East is wide open. And we're going to talk about that probably with the boys here in a moment. But I would say you've got probably all seven teams out of the East, 7 of your top 8 probably have a legit reason of saying, hey, we could go and win the East Regional and be a top seed at state. I truly feel that because now I'm more impressed with East than I am with Laramie and Central, yes. Am I more impressed with Thunder Basin and Campbell County than Sheridan and Natrona? Yes. But that doesn't mean on any given day, and we've seen that in the past in high school girls basketball in the state.
Well, and again, you kind of at least alluded to that, David. My next question, again, we've talked about that Laramie Lady Plainsman team where, again, got at least East took care of business against them, but again, Laramie getting the home win against Central, but having some at least kind of up and downs against the Northeast Quadrant. But again, still, let's give credit to the Laramie Lady Plainsmen of the unbelievable season that they're having right now, 15-4, 2-1 in the quadrant. This Lady Plainsman team, who I said keep an eye out, they are that dark horse team to make that deep run, especially regarding the state tournament. As we talk how heavy, how talented this Eastern Conference is, for those Laramie Lady Plainsmen, is it a realistic expectation, or at least could it be a possibility that Laramie could face off against Cody for a state championship?
I think it's possible, and I'll tell you why. I think the dynamic duo of Kylan Shipman and Addie Forey gives Laramie a chance. 3 out of Laramie's 4 losses on the season, Kylan Shipman didn't play in the game, and she's your steady rock that runs the point. And the reason why she didn't play was she suffered a little bit of an injury. And Laramie missed her in the road trip to Gillette, didn't play in either of those games. She didn't play in the loss at home last Friday to Natrona. She goes back in the lineup the next day against Sheridan, and they turn around and beat a very quality Sheridan Bronx squad on the women's side. And so Laramie has the tools. Now, Laramie's not as deep as some of these other teams, and that's what could catch up to them. You get a game where you get in foul trouble. They've had some game overs, but Shipman kind of steadies that ship, and when you got a quality 1-2 punch like her and Forey, and then you throw in some good play in the half court, in the full court defense, with the way that Laramie can turn teams over, because that's what they did. Even though Natrona beat Laramie, they still turned the Phillies over quite a bit. They turned Sheridan over quite a bit, and that has helped them reach that 15-4 level. They maybe not the best offensive team, but they're going to dig in defensively, and that has helped them win 15 games to this point, Nick. So I think Laramie can make a run, but you got to have everything come together, and you guys know that as well as I do, and got to be playing your best basketball. If Laramie can get a little healthier than they've been, they can make a push in the postseason.
Well, one thing, too, and you talk about, and I've stated this throughout the course of the season, is depth. And obviously the Lady Thunderbirds are the team that has the depth, especially with that trio of freshmen that get on the court. But going back to Laramie here, David, and again, your involvement with the Plainsmen for many years, I think this week is, again, for seeding on our side of the bracket, this is probably the most critical weekend for both the Lady Plainsmen and the Plainsmen. You're going to catch a Cheyenne Central team that is down a little bit on the boys' side. You're going to catch an East team that has very little depth on the boys' side. And then on the girls, you're catching the Lady Indians right now that have been struggling. And we'll see how the Lady Thunderbirds react after that loss to Thunder Basin. So I would say for the Plainsmen and for the Lady Plainsmen, very critical couple games.
It really is, and I'll be honest with you, Larry, both coaches have been pointing to this week. Ever since we saw East and Central the first time in conference play, the focus was not as much on the cross-quadrant games, because while cross-quadrant games count for tiebreaker purposes, they don't necessarily count in your conference standings, because we're coaches voted to go away from, and they didn't like the 1 through 8, so we're back to 1 through 4, so whoever finishes 1 in the Southeast is going to play 4 in the Northeast in the first day of regionals. Now, are you going to see these other teams? Absolutely. That's why you play those cross-quad games. But Laramie, if the Laramie girls want to make some noise, I think while it would be great to upset East and would bolster them, they need to take care of business against Central on Friday, and that's not going to be easy. That was a game that went right down to the wire. Shipman hit a runner that kind of hit the glass and rolled over the side of the rim and dropped in, and that was a 2-point win. Central didn't get a shot off in the last 5 seconds, but that was a great high school basketball game on the ladies' side, and I expect another great one Friday night in Cheyenne between Laramie and Central. And, Central will be out for a little bit of revenge. So Laramie's been pointing to this week, more so maybe on the girls' side than the guys' side, but if the boys want to make any noise, they're going to have to find a way to slow these teams down a little bit better than they did. I thought Laramie played a good game at home against Central, and the start of the second half was what did them in at East on the road earlier this year. And so they know what type of adjustments they need to make. It's simply just going out and executing the game plan and the adjustments that you do take away from the first meeting.
The Plainsmen, real quick as we move to the guys' side, and again, we saw them earlier in the year. They've kind of, struggled a little bit. But playing East in Laramie, whether it's the old facility, the new facility, again, great fan support always for the Plainsmen. And East has found its struggles over there. Now you catch East with a pretty decent 5, but then you go down the bench, and this is one of the things that I've talked about. Right now, that depth has really taken a serious blow because, again, Cam Hayes was a very good 6 coming off the bench. Well, he's out there now as part of that starting 5. You look down the bench, it's not too strong. Brendan Bowman's come along a little bit. Joey Rail, he's out there garnering some minutes. But right now, I think you're catching the Thunderbirds at home at the right time.
Yeah, and for the Plainsmen, they've been a little banged up, in and out, some different things, and so they're getting a little healthier, Larry. And that's one of those where Coach Evans knows exactly what he needs to see from his squad. And he got a little bit of that. He got a little more of that on Friday against Natrona. Didn't happen as much on Saturday against Sheridan. And that's a quality Sheridan team, but they know that the answer for them is on the defensive end, and what they do, especially guarding the ball and keeping teams off the offensive glass. Those, to me, are the two biggest things that stand out for the Plainsmen. They have potential. They have guys that can score the basketball. They have different ways they can manufacture scoring. But to me, their biggest key is on the defensive end and keeping teams off the offensive glass. That seems to have hurt Laramie more than anything, especially in these last few weeks. When you talk about, a couple games up in Gillette between Laramie and the Bolts and the Camels, they gave up a few too many things in those key areas, where there was breakdowns on a dribble drive and a kick out for a three, or letting teams have that second, third opportunity and at the same time still kicking it out for an open look at three. That's what hurt them in those two road games. Did again against Sheridan. So it's kind of two key areas for the Plainsmen, but they know they continue to work on it, continue to harp on it. They know what they have to do. Laramie's a little deeper team because Coach Evans is not afraid to play 10 guys. And that sometimes can help you, and I'm curious to see what that does against East and their shortened bench coming up on Thursday, Larry. Central, that will be an interesting one because all of a sudden I had Central pegged as right there, one of the co-favorites with East, and all of a sudden they've fallen on hard times, but that doesn't mean they can't get it back.
Well, and again, as we look at this Eastern Conference right now, we're on the girls' side. It's kind of wide open. And again, it feels weird to talk about any flaws regarding the Cheyenne East boys team, where again they stand right now 16-2, 3-0 in the quadrant right now. Again, they are the shining spot here in the Eastern Conference, where everyone else is kind of beating up on each other. But again, we look to these previous weekends with Northeast versus Southeast. David, on the boys' side, who's going to be number 2, number 3, number 4 to represent, or at least kind of go alongside with Cheyenne East in that state tournament? Because right now, similar to the girls, it kind of feels like it's wide open that anyone, and we'll even include Cheyenne South if they find a way to get red hot on the boys' side, maybe they could be that outside shot. But who's kind of standing out to you of making a good run in that Eastern Conference regional tournament?
I would look at Sheridan right now. I've been impressed by what the Bronx. I thought they were going to be a good basketball team, but I think they've elevated their game, and I think that's a credit to some of the players they have, and then also Jeff Martini as a coach. A great coach there. I look at Sheridan. I still think Thunder Basin and Campbell County can be hit and miss, and maybe you guys saw that last weekend. Not 100% certain, but I think both those teams have their moments. Now, Campbell County's healthier, finally. They are finally getting healthy. I mean, they had the Droop kid miss some time. The Lackey kid missed some time. They've gotten a little healthier, so I think that's going to help them. But I really point at Sheridan as a team that can do some damage in that East Regional. I will say this, guys, 4A boys right now is about as wide open, in my opinion, as it's been in a long time. I know there's been a few years where maybe we've had a few more title contenders, but I really, truly look at and go, there's a bunch of teams on the East, but there's a handful of teams on the West that can make some noise. And the teams that end up getting at state, you might have all 8 that might have a chance to win a title, truly going to the state championships when they start on March 9th in Casper.
This is Central's opportunity this week, especially to get healthy. Again, with South, who's been struggling. Again, we're not going to turn our back on the fight in Bison, but also, too, you get Laramie in the field house, and Jim Schaefer's team, again, ran into the Northeast, and, tip our cap to the Northeast. But here's where Jim has to get healthy in quadrant play.
Well, and I will look at it, and I'll say there's been some teams that are kind of in Jekyll and Hyde, in my opinion. Laramie's been that to a degree. I think the Natrona boys, Jekyll and Hyde. What they did in the weekend to upset Central, take East down to the wire was unbelievable. But then they turn around and score 13 points in an entire half and get drilled at home by Cody. I know they came back and made that game a little more competitive and a little closer in the final score in the second half, and kudos to them for that. But they've been kind of Jekyll and Hyde, and I saw them last Friday. they've got the potential, and they've shown it. I mean, they went on the road. They've won at Laramie. They've won at Campbell, or competed at Campbell County. Campbell kind of surprised me that they upset Natrona, but Natrona's kind of been a Jekyll and Hyde team. Same, I can look at Cody in the West. They've been kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team. All of a sudden, you've had a couple of teams that looked really good early. We mentioned Central. They're falling on hard times. Jackson, they looked pretty good early and through the middle portion of the season. They've fallen on some hard times in the last couple of weeks. So you got teams that are falling on hard times, but I'm not discounting them, guys, simply because I know their potential and the way that they can get back going in the right direction. So that's why I make the statement that this is wide open, and you do have some teams that maybe have kind of been a little Jekyll and Hyde, but they still have that potential, and that's why I think this year's 4A boys is pretty wide open. Central, I think you're right, Larry. They can get healthier this weekend. Getting Laramie at home, if that game was in Laramie, I might give the Plainsmen a little more of a fighting chance, but Laramie's got nothing to lose Friday going on the road against Central or at home Thursday against East. So those will be two intriguing games coming up this weekend for the Plainsmen.
One team, at least we have not talked about on the west side, and this will be my final question for you, David. Again, we appreciate you joining us today and giving us insight on 4A basketball here as we're getting to the at least kind of final few weeks. But a team that, unfortunately for Cheyenne East, we tried to get that game in, again, due to the snowstorms, again, got postponed and eventually canceled. East versus Riverton. Riverton on the boys' side, 16-2. They are 3-0 in their quadrant play right now. Riverton, a Wolverines team that was talked about in the kind of preseason of keep an eye on them. Well, they've kind of lived up to the hype. Even though we talk about how talented this Eastern Conference is, can Riverton compete with the East? Can Riverton make a potential state title run or at least bring a championship out there to the kind of central part of Wyoming?
I believe they can. I saw them in preseason on my preseason tour and what Coach Sheets was doing in practice and some of their personnel. I know they lost their size, but really this reminds me of the Riverton team that won 3A the year after they dropped down from 4A. Gosh, I'm probably going back 7-8 years ago now, guys. This is a team that can come at you in so many different ways. They don't have the size. You don't have a 6'7" post kid like a Jackson or a Star Valley or a couple other teams. You don't have, necessarily in any sort of inside dominance, but they can get to the rim, they can get to the free throw line, and they are just really good at what they do. They can knock down threes, so they can spread you out, but when they spread you out and you're concerned about that, you're going to give up some dribble drives, and when you give up those dribble drives, they're either finishing at the rim or they're getting to the free throw line, and that, I think, sometimes is a little overlooked when you look at this Riverton team, is how effective they are at getting to the free throw line. They're only shooting 67% as a team at the free throw line, but the guys that usually get there, they're the ones who make it count. And 67% actually, from a team standpoint at the free throw line, is actually one of the higher marks in 4A boys basketball this year at the free throw line. I hate to say it, but it's kind of sad to say at the same time, guys. But I was impressed with Riverton in the preseason. Laramie played them head-to-head in that first weekend at the Stranigan Classic, and I looked at a couple different players. The Paxton kid is really good. Don't get me wrong. Parker is one of the guys that makes them go, but Derek DeVries is an X factor for that team, and if he's on and they are rebounding as a team, and he's kind of a guy that I look at. They've got a couple other players. Don't get me wrong. It's not just those two, but Riverton's for real, and I think they can make a run. They do remind me of that team that had been competitive at the 4A level, and then all those kids, and this is going back to Parker's older brother, Easton, and Fullerton, and a couple other, Taryn Debley, and a couple other kids. They won 3A the year after, and a lot of those kids on that team, and even the coach at the time on that team, who's no longer with the Riverton program, they wanted to see some of the 4A teams because they felt they could have really competed in 4A. Well, Riverton's proven a point. They've got a number of kids that played a lot last year when they dominated the West, went 10-0, but everybody looked at them and went, you can't compete with the East teams. They did okay at state, but they came back with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and I think they've kind of proven that throughout the season. I'm like you, Nick. I would have loved to see that game. I was bummed that thing got postponed twice and eventually canceled because I would have loved to have seen if they would have found a way to play that game how Riverton and East would have matched up with each other. I think East probably has a little more size, but I think they're very similar in how they go about things.
All right, David. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and as I get ready to say adios to you, again, we're getting ready on the Mountain West Conference. Unfortunately for the guys, we know that's pretty much dead in the water, so to speak. The late Joe Tiller can probably relate to what Jeff Linder's going through. I think was his first season as the head coach of the Cowboys. Let's look at what you have in store for you. Can the Cowgirls make a run in the MWC tournament?
Absolutely. This is a really talented team. This is a veteran team. Now, they're not super veteran, and what I mean by that is you have the two super seniors in Quinn Weideman and Tommy Olson that lead this team, but then pretty much everybody else that plays also played significant roles last year. And they can go 9, 10, maybe even 11 deep. They're not afraid to play on the road, and they've proven they've had success on the road. Now, big road trip coming up this week, going into Mexico and San Diego State, two tough opponents, and obviously lost to San Diego State at home earlier this year. They beat New Mexico. These girls know how to step up their game. The motto is always, let's get better day by day, and they continue to get better as we go deeper into the season here, Larry, and that's why I'm confident that they can make a run out in Vegas next month. And to me right now, no doubt about it, they'll be involved in postseason in some way coming up in March, but they do have a shot. This team is very reminiscent of a couple years ago where you got that veteran leadership and several players that have experience, plus some of your younger players are growing up, whether you look at Allison Fertig or Emily Mellema or a couple others. This team has different ways they can beat you, and I've been very impressed. It's been a lot of fun to be around that team this year.
All righty, David. Well, we thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we catch up with you somewhere in Casper, whether it's at Natrona or at the Ford Center or at the Swede. So looking forward to, exchanging some notes. Again, enjoyed talking with you.
Guys, absolutely. My apologies for being late, but the boss chimed in, and I had to take it, unfortunately. It was something that I had to discuss, so my apologies for being a little late and delayed with you guys today, but always a pleasure to be on. You guys have fun, and I will certainly probably see you in Casper.
All right, sounds good. David Settle joining us again, who is the brand manager for WyoPreps here on 1480 KRA. We got to take a break. We're way past break time, so we'll be back with more of the Pro Show right here on 1480 KRA.
Wyoming Food Bank of the Rockies is leaning in. We know this is a difficult time for many Wyoming families, and that nobody should suffer due to a lack of food. If you or someone you know is in need of nutritious foods, go to our website at wyomingfoodbank.org and click on Get Help. We also need your help. Go to our website, click the Give tab, then Events to learn how you can help your community through volunteering and making a donation. You can play a role in fighting hunger and feeding hope. Please give today.
Capital Lumber is number one in Cheyenne. Are you listening? We're all the lumber store you'll ever need. For electrical, plumbing, paint, and tools, lumber and hardware, we're for you. And we're out to earn your business, yes indeed. Capital Lumber is number one today. Are you listening? Capital Lumber's at your service all the way.
Since 1966, Cheyenne and Laramie County has depended on and trusted family-owned and operated Capital Lumber Company for all your lumber and hardware needs at 1222 Dunn Avenue in Cheyenne.
If you're looking to make a difference in local health care, Cheyenne Regional Medical Center is the place for you. We're more than just a hometown hospital. We are the largest health system in Wyoming with the latest technology. We want to help you grow as a person as well as within your career in health care. Inspire great health with us at Cheyenne Regional Medical Center. To learn about our opportunities, call us at 307-633-7871 or send us an email at recruiting@crmcwy.org.
In the 1960s, Bruce Lee said, "Be water, my friend." The meaning of that advice has been debated ever since. Here at First Tier Bank, we believe he meant that preserving your liquid assets in a high-yield money market account can get you a decent yield on your funds while maintaining your liquidity in choppy financial markets. We've got some of the best money market rates around, and we'd like to invite you to be water and make your liquid assets work for you. Stop by or call First Tier Bank today with 2 locations to serve you at 1508 Stillwater Avenue and 1800 Cary Avenue in downtown Cheyenne. Or check us out at firsttierbanks.com. First Tier Banks, member FDIC. For nearly 30 years, family-owned and operated Lennox Auto Body, along with the Auto Glass and Detail Center, has been serving our community with quality and customer satisfaction. It's a pretty simple drill. When you want it done right the first time, call Lennox Auto Body for an appointment at 307-634-6608. Lennox Auto Body at 1020 Dunn Avenue. And the Auto Glass and Detail Center. Remember, it's not clean until it's Lennox clean at 617 East Pershing Boulevard.
Lennox Auto Body. No shortcuts, no compromise.
Here's the latest weather forecast on 1480 K-Ray.
Weather-wise for today, a high wind warning has been issued. Increasing clouds with a chance of snow developing this afternoon. Temperatures in the middle 20s. Windy conditions. Westerly winds at 30 to 40, gusting as high as 60. For tonight, mostly cloudy and windy. Northerly winds at 25 to 30, gusting as high as 40. Snow likely mainly after midnight. Our low dropping down to 7 degrees. New snow accumulation less than a half inch possible. And for tomorrow, Wednesday, mostly cloudy, continued blustery, with a pretty good chance for snow. Look for a daytime high near 13 degrees. Northerly winds 20 to 25, gusting as high as 35. And we are getting things all firmed up here. As I want to thank David Settle for joining us here on 1480 Carry. Appreciate that again. Who calls the Plainsman. He's been doing that for a long, long time, Lady Plainsman, and also getting the task this year to call Cowgirl games. Now, as we are looking at the schedule here, Nick, we are looking at what could possibly be happening this week. We thought thought it was Friday and Saturday, right?
Well, yeah, we thought it was back-to-back Friday, Saturday, and again, this was according to preseason schedule. So again, obviously things have changed, and obviously things will get moved around. As we saw, especially with one game having to move away from Story Gymnasium due to the fact that, again, there was something occupying Story Gymnasium for that East-South game. But as we, again, got an understanding today that it's not on Friday for East versus South. Again, it is tomorrow night, 6 and 7:30. So we will be there tomorrow night, 6 and 7:30 at Story Gymnasium. East taking on Cheyenne South live from Story Gymnasium. So, again, boys and girls action that we'll have here live, 1480 AM, 101.1 FM. 1480KRay.com and the audio side, and video live streaming as we do on the 1480KRay YouTube channel. So again, that is Wednesday, tomorrow night's action, East versus South. We will also too see Central versus South. That is 1 and 2:30 at Story Gymnasium Saturday. So again, that stays the same on Saturday. But again, the East game that, again, as I go off of my preseason schedule, again, was a Friday, but again, has now been, at least in my eyes, shifted to Wednesday. So either way, that is completely fine. It just means that tomorrow we will have no pro show just due to the fact that, again, we'll have to prep, get ready for, again, that contest later on that evening. They're live from Story Gymnasium. But going back to, again, our Class 4A basketball, at least talk as we were on girls action from this past weekend. We talked a little bit about Friday. Want to get into scores here in Class 4A, looking at what happened on Friday in the girls' side. Central losing at home against Thunder Basin, number 4 in the state. Thunder Basin Lady Bolts get it done 71-60. Sheridan defeating Cheyenne South 53-31. That game at Cheyenne South. Natrona County beating Laramie. That was a shock. 53-43 that game in Laramie. And Cheyenne East, the game we had here live on 1480 Carry, again winning that ball game 67-58. Saturday's action on the girls' side. How about this? Campbell County gets it done against Cheyenne Central 68-65. Concerned right now for the Lady Indians, as we talked about. Laramie getting it done against Sheridan by at least a final of 58-54. Natrona County beating up Cheyenne South 62-25. And then this one. And we can talk about this if we want to. This is the biggest surprise. Did not expect this. Thunder Basin, number 4, as I mentioned, they defeated Cheyenne East 54-49 at the Thunderdome. For Cheyenne East, it's their first loss in this state. And again, make note of that. This is their first loss in this state in 2 years. So the Lady Thunderbirds no longer unbeaten. Those streaks that, again, were set up here in 2023 had now been broken. Whether it was the, again, consecutive win streak that was broken by Scottsbluff, Nebraska a couple of weeks ago, and now this in the state of Wyoming, the unbeaten streak against Wyoming opponents, it gets upended by the Lady Bolts. So if anything, again, if we'll talk about the loss for Cheyenne East this past Saturday at home, I think if anything, it takes the pressure off this team now fully, where you're not thinking about consecutive win streak. You're not thinking about being undefeated once again in this season. You're no longer thinking of being unbeaten against Wyoming opponents. Now you just go and play your basketball.
Yeah,
Now there's nothing to focus on. You still have that gigantic target on your back again, just due to the fact of being back-to-back state champions. But outside of that, I think this is, again, obviously for Coach Wessling, you don't want to lose, but I think, if anything, this is a huge pressure relief off of Cheyenne in a way.
Yeah, I look at it this way, Nick. Records are made to be broken. Well, they tied one record. The Lady Thunderbirds, they are the defending back-to-back state champions. So, again, everybody that is it goes back to the old Gillette High School days where everybody just ramped it up because they were facing the Camels. Well, everybody's facing the Lady Thunderbirds. You got to give the Lady Camels their due Friday night. That was a struggle for the Lady Thunderbirds in their own facility. And then on Saturday in their own facility, a turnaround for both teams that was short. Thunder Basin had more biscuits go in the basket than the Lady Thunderbirds. Again, we saw Bo Leodol struggle on senior night, okay? We saw Izzy DeLong get into foul difficulty. We saw Fonseca have a tough night, and then you're depending on your freshmen, Cashlyn Hawes, Jade Brown,
and the freshmen
and
who are
Peyton Hall to come in.
Freshmen who are going to make those young mistakes, and we saw it against Campbell County without a doubt. So it's something that, again, for Cheyenne East, with the loss, yes, it is highly shocking, highly surprising, but I think it's a huge relief now for this Lady Thunderbirds team, where, again, it's now no longer, again, the eyes are going to, and the attention is going to be on Cheyenne East, but I think this relieves a little bit of the pressure now of, we don't have to think about this record or that record or, again, this unbeaten streak, whatever it may be. Now you go out there and you play your basketball. And, again, for Cheyenne East, opportunity this weekend for them, especially tomorrow night, to get very healthy against Cheyenne South. The last time we saw these two teams meet at Cheyenne South, it was a running clock.
But Cheyenne East slow start for the Lady
but they
Thunderbirds.
still ran away with that contest and cruised to a victory. So, again, imagine that Cheyenne East should comfortably come away with a victory tomorrow night. Laramie versus Cheyenne East, that's going to be the intriguing factor, again, to see if East can get it done again against the Lady Plainsmen. But, again, that'll be to be determined coming up this weekend. So, again, it's a big weekend for Cheyenne East.
Let me throw this out here, too, as I was throwing some names out. Another name I'm going to throw out on that starting grid for Eric Wessling is Taylor Cassett. She's very steady out there. As a matter of fact, we heard the steady as a rock compliment from David Settle. So is Taylor. Taylor does not hurt you as far as, passing the basketball, handling the basketball, going in for rebounds. If they can get her to start getting a few shots up and in, I think this is going to make that team a complete team. Because, again, if you have a Bo Leodol that's having an off weekend like she did, and again, you can't throw it all on Brady. I know Brady Schlabbs basically put the team on her back Friday, but you can't do that every time out. We know Jade Brown is going to be a superstar. There's no doubt about it in my mind. She's going to be.
She already is right now.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, her sophomore, junior, and senior years, I'm so looking forward to. But what I'm saying, though, I really like the play of Taylor Cassett. Izzy DeLong has been struggling, too. Again, she is so aggressive out there. But this starter, I think they got to get a little more output. And I'm talking about points. They get points out of her. I think East is a complete team, and nobody beats them.
Anyways, again, as we talk about Class 4A, I do want to get to 2A very quickly on the girls' side. We'll kind of devote here this hour number one against for girls basketball, whether it's 4A, 2A, and then boys will be in hour number two, especially after our interview with Mark Puev, who will come in studio with us and talk LCCC. But standings right now in Class 4A in the Southeast Quadrant, East at the top, 15-2 overall, 3-0 in conference. Again, that's quadrant play of the Southeast teams. Laramie 15-4, 2-1 in quadrant. Cheyenne Central 10-7 overall. They are 1-2. Cheyenne South sitting at the bottom at 1-17, 0-3. So again, Cheyenne South got a tall task coming up tomorrow night against the East Tide Lady Thunderbirds at neutral site there at Story Gymnasium. Want to go to again Saturday's action where again we moved down to Class 2A. We saw Pine versus Burns in Pine Bluffs, Battle of Laramie County. This, for Coach Lindsey Forbes, this was a huge contest. This was a must-win in a way, and what a way to get it done against the Burns Lady Bronx, where Burns kind of handed that ball game to Pine in certain ways, because Pine, especially as we saw, I think, around midway of the third quarter, fourth quarter, they were just again, the offense was just not there. There were careless passes. It kind of felt like neither team really wanted to win that game. Pine, though, found a way to close out, get it done, especially using the height. And I think that's kind of the key factor in that ball game on Saturday afternoon was the height really showed up inside in the middle for the Lady Hornets. And again, looking at the standings very quickly right now, Lady Hornets with the win. Again, this is quadrant win as well. This was so important. They are 8-12 overall. They are 2-1 in the conference, which puts them number 1 seed as of right now in Class 2A in the Southeast Quadrant. Burns with the loss. They are 9-12, 3-2 in quadrant play. Lingle Fort Laramie 13-5. They are 2-2, and Lusk 8-11, 1-3 quadrant play. So again, Pine Bluffs with the Lady Hornets, huge must win. Got it done at home this Saturday.
Well, and you look at and again, want to remind everybody that Pine is in action tonight. They're at Lusk to face the Lady Tigers and the Tigers, I think, 5:30, 7 o'clock. So that's going to be a huge road trip for Lindsey Forbes along with Tyler Kimsey as they take their teams on the road. But, you go back into the girls' contest that we saw over at Pine Bluffs. Again, Lindsey's got a lot of height.
She's got a lot of potential talent, too.
But what I thought was very key in that ball game, Hoffman, she came down the stretch. I thought it was more of the Weimer kid, Kelsey.
Yeah.
I think her ball handling in that ball game was very important because they didn't get a lot out of Abby Gray, the senior. And again,
defense, I would say, out of her.
Defensively, and Graves did foul out, and they did have the freshman out there for a good majority of the game. But once Cower got into foul difficulty for the Lady Bronx, Barry Ward had to go to his bench. And when he went to his bench, he went to inexperience. And again, they could not. Once Cower was out there, she neutralized Hoffman.
And we talk about the foul difficulty, and again, a couple players fouling out on both sides. Again, this was not a game that, in my opinion, was dominated by officiating. No, it felt like it was kind of cut down straight in the middle of, the clear fouls were called. And again, if anything, they allowed both teams to play. And again, we even saw that on the boys' side. But this is something that for Coach Forbes and for Pine Bluffs and the Lady Hornets, they're getting healthy at the right time. They are stringing off a few huge wins here in Class 2A, especially within the Southeast Quadrant. Now, it's something, keep an eye on this team. They are in the number 1 seed as of right now to represent the Southeast Quadrant. Again, when they get into the East Regional Tournament, can they make a run to the state tournament? I think there's a good possibility. I think they can be one of the 4 teams to, again, make it in that state tournament. The thing is, though, for this season, again, don't expect the Lady Hornets to, again, come away with championship hardware in the state. It's still going to take some time. But next season, as this team is gelling together, again, working with a lot of those young players out there, plain and simple, with the height that they have, the speed and the potential talent, this is a Pine team to keep an eye out, 24, 25, 26, that could make some serious damage, kind of like their guy counterpart, at least for Pine Bluff.
Here's the deal with Barry Ward's Lady Bronx. Like them. I really do. 1 senior,
it's a gritty bunch,
4 juniors. Grease at the point. I think she needs to start going to the hole a little bit more. She needs to just take it inside. Hanson, they've got to get better minutes out of her. Kirkbride, she likes to sit outside. Well, if she likes to sit outside, get her the basketball. Quit throwing it around. That's the problem. They throw the basketball around too much. And it's come. Look at the turnovers. Not that Pine Bluffs was that great defensively. Burns shot themselves in the foot the way they were throwing the ball around. And again,
plain and simple, both teams shot themselves up plenty this weekend.
When you're shooting, when you're passing from the wing on the near side, and you're throwing it off to the angle on the top side, on the far side, you're spelling yourself disaster.
And granted, we see that even on the JUCO side. Again, how many times we saw that with LCCC, where, again, those passes are made. Again, it's that kind of youthful mistake of trying to go for that home run ball. But, again, it doesn't end up very well. And it certainly didn't for Burns' case as well this past weekend. But Burns had the opportunity to get in this game and, again, eventually potentially win it, as Pine, again, I think for about 5-6 minutes, just could not put up a single basket. They were turning over that basketball as well, too. Pine was giving Burns every opportunity. The Lady Bronx just could not cash it.
And again, too, I think, in the case of Barry Ward, he's got to protect Cower. Because, again, she is so good.
She's dominant on the middle.
She's 5'11" or 5'10", and she's battling sixes.
But, again, she acts as if she's 6 foot, though. She goes aggressive on the inside.
But you know what I think what Coach Ward really needs to start focusing on? Probably doing more zone. Because he likes to stay man on man. You got to protect Cower. Because, she is so aggressive. She's usually with 2-3 fouls by halftime.
And you can't afford to lose Cower. Cower is your anchored spot right now for the Lady Bronx. She is
good.
She is really good. It is something that, yes, the 2 previous contests we've seen, again, those battles against Pine Bluff. So she's run into foul difficulty, and it's altered that game. Without a doubt. I think that's kind of the key factor is that when she gets into foul difficulty and you got to put her on the bench to save some minutes and conserve and avoid that next foul, it changes the dynamic. And, again, if she was out there for the full – course, for the Lady Bronx, could it be a different scenario? Possibly. But, again, for Coach Ward right now, it is definitely a reflection point after what happened this weekend where, again, you had opportunities. This team has talent. It has a chance. And, again, they still sit right now in second place, at least in the Southeast Quadrant. But if you want to make a run and get back to that state tournament, again, it's been a long time since the Lady Bronx have been into the state tournament. That if you want to get into that state tournament, you got to find a way to gel and again, get her going.
And again, too, you got good depth. The sisters, Josie and Sadie, that came in. And again, Sadie came in for Cower. She's getting valuable minutes. But I didn't think their bench hurt them.
No.
Again, I think the starting 5, and you felt that loss of Cower when she had to sit down when she picked up her second foul. I think Grease is definitely at the point. She needs to do exactly what we saw Latke do against Cheyenne. She needs to get to the middle and just penetrate in the paint.
But very quickly, though, as we're at the top of the hour, we get to our next guest here on the Pro Show. But Coach Forbes to the Lady Hornets, again, at home, hosting Burns at a key matchup. This was huge. Again, obviously, it's a rivalry game between these two. And, again, that bragging rights to be the best team here in Laramie County. But, again, regarding standings, especially as now we look towards, we're a few weekends away from that East Regional Tournament, especially in Class 2A. This was huge. Got it done. Now you kind of step back and look, even though, again, let's not disrespect Lingle Fort Laramie, still with a pretty impressive overall record. Lingle Fort Laramie did get shocked over this past week as well by, again, Pine or Burns. But it's something that for Pine Bluffs, you got to carry this momentum. You got to ride this wave of momentum into the regional tournament. And if they can get things to gel, especially using that height as they did this past Saturday inside, keep an eye on this Pine Bluffs team. They could be a high seed entering in. They could make it into the state tournament. And who knows what they could do in Casper.
And here's another acid test tonight. You got to go on the road to Lusk. So again,
should they beat Lusk? Yes.
The Lady Hornets and the Hornets definitely. We know the Hornets should cruise.
Yeah.
But for the Lady Hornets to continue that quest in that quadrant, this is going to be a big acid test.
Should Pine get a sweep tonight? Yes,
absolutely.
They should.
You would be shocked if they don't. All right, we are going to take a break. We'll come back with hour number 2 of the Pro Show right here on 1480 K-Ray.
1480 K-Ray is your home for live play-by-play coverage of high school basketball and football. To hear all the play-by-play calls of East, Central, and South football and basketball. You'll hear the conference action along with the postseason, and during the basketball season, 1480 K-Ray features both boys and girls games. Catch all the exciting calls on AM 1480 K-Ray, also streaming the games worldwide on the web at 1480kray.com.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-298-5783. 800-298-5783. 800-298-5783. 5783. That's 800-298-5783.
For over 30 years and still delivering the results you expect is Shine Auto Repair and Service. Hi, this is Larry Proietti again for Cars in downtown Cheyenne, reminding you that John and his staff are there to take care of your vehicle's woes. From oil change and replacing windshield wipers to digging deep into fixing your heating and air conditioning unit or fixing your brakes and shocks, you can depend on Shine Auto Repair and Service for taking care of most minor repairs. And most importantly, John is a TechNet professional, which means he is one of the best nationally when it comes to getting your car or truck back on the road as soon as possible. Check him out online at technetprofessional.com. Don't wait until the last minute. Have your vehicle serviced by one of the best in Cheyenne. Shine Auto Repair and Service at 604 West Lincoln Way. Call for an appointment at 632-0498. That's 307-632-0498. Open Monday through Friday.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're going to love it, and you're going to love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-245-1537. 800-245-1537. 800-245-1537. That's 800-245-1537.
Tired of choosing between finances and family time? Platte Valley Bank can help you take care of everything without missing anything. With our online and mobile banking, you can experience immediate access to check your account balance, pay bills, transfer money, and even create a budget. When life has you on the go, Platte Valley Bank makes it simple to take your banking with you. Platte Valley Bank, you belong here.
Platte Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Do you have Medicare and do you use a CPAP machine? This is a national healthcare alert regarding your CPAP supplies. Using a clean CPAP mask and clean supplies is important to staying healthy. The best way to make sure your CPAP equipment is clean is to get new supplies. If you have Medicare, we have great news. Medicare will pay for you to have new clean supplies every 90 days. We'll even do all the paperwork for you to make sure that there's little to no out-of-pocket cost to you. And you don't even have to leave your home. We provide free in-home delivery. So if you're a CPAP user and you have Medicare, staying healthy with new CPAP equipment is easy. Just make this free phone call right now to get started.
Sponsored by Specialty Medical. 800-245-3098. 800-245-3098. 800-245-3098. That's 800-245-3098.
Here's the latest weather forecast on 1480 K-Ray.
Weather-wise for today, a high wind warning has been issued. Increasing clouds with a chance of snow developing this afternoon. Temperatures in the middle 20s. Windy conditions. Westerly winds at 30 to 40, gusting as high as 60. For tonight, mostly cloudy and windy. Northerly winds at 25 to 30, gusting as high as 40. Snow likely mainly after midnight. Our low dropping down to 7 degrees. New snow accumulation less than a half inch possible. And for tomorrow, Wednesday, mostly cloudy, continued blustery with a pretty good chance for snow. Look for a daytime high near 13 degrees. Northerly winds 20 to 25, gusting as high as 35.
This is 1480 KRAE Cheyenne.
Right now on 1480 K-Ray, it's time for the Pro Show, featuring the only father and son sports talk show talking about the local sports scene as we take a look back and look ahead to upcoming events around our area. The Pro Show is on now, right here on 1480 K-Ray. And we welcome you back to the Pro Show, hour number 2. Larry Proietti along with Nick Proietti. Again, a reminder, no show tomorrow. We'll have hoops over at Story Gym with the South High Fighting Bison, along with the Shiny Thunderbirds. Speaking of the Fighting Bison, former athletic director over at South High, now at Laramie County Community College. Nice thing is now we've completed our roundabout with all 3 of the high schools, and now with our JUCO Athletic Director Mark Puev joins us. And Mark, I guess I'm going to get right into the crux of our conversation. Making the switch from high school to collegiate athletics as an athletic director. Boy, again, not talking dollars and cents. Let's just talk about the absolute rush of going from one to the other.
It's just night and day. You know, a lot of the things are the same, but a lot of them are different. You know, you go from a place where you had over 20 different programs that you're in charge of, and now it is 7. And so you'd think that life would be that much easier. And then, you know, the timing of everything is that I just happen to be lucky enough to jump in. And I say that partially sarcastically, partially dead serious. I'm lucky enough to jump into, you know, a $25-30 million renovation project right off the bat that they had already started the heavy planning on. And within months of me being there, they got into the actual physical demo work of it. It's a really neat process to be a part of. It's a very time-consuming process to be a part of. I made the joke the other day that, you know, it'll be nice. Somebody asked me, you know, so what is it like? And I said, ask me that in January of 24 when we're actually in the place when I can actually consume my life with being an athletic director again, and I'm not an event planner or coordinator, schedule facilitator, and all that other stuff, because that's what's the biggest time consumption right now is all the meetings and trying to figure out and juggle all the different schedules that are involved, the practice schedules. And I think the community in and of itself, maybe I'm taking this conversation somewhere that we're going to get there anyway, but you really realize just what a lack of indoor facilities you have when you're trying to find places for extra teams.
Yeah, like we talked, whether it was with Dwayne or again with Ayanna, again trying to get practices, even with our soccer coaches, trying to figure this out of where do we practice, where do we meet up, and again also to the logistics of, especially on the basketball side, having to kind of bus over our athletes over to Story Gymnasium to go play at least those contests. But on top of, again, dealing with the renovation of the rack right now at LCCC, on top of that, for you, Mark, you are a part of committees or crews to hire up new coaches, which, again, right now, interim tags are finally gone at LCCC. Again, we had a plenty during our time, again, around LCCC, but now, again, with Lugo, again, coaching the women's soccer program, we announced that also, too. We got men's all solidified. Again, gotta love that now we have stability at LCCC, that, again, we now have our coaches to lead our teams.
Yeah, and, you know, and then you even throw on top of that Jazzy Espinosa as the new assistant volleyball coach. So as of right now, the staff is completely solidified, and that's just that's something I couldn't say for the first 6 months that I was out there, because we had to wait for that interim tag, and then for you know, Jim Gardner came on out at the last second to help us out of a really tight spot, and I'll be forever in his debt for that. But then you had to get to it, and thank goodness with that. So we had to hire both the head soccer coaches virtually at the same time, and at least we had the presence of mind to stagger those two interviews by about a couple weeks. So when you're doing the interviews for one, you're looking at the candidates for the next, and then you just keep going to that next step, and they just kept getting bounced back and forth, so that by the time we got to the Christmas break, everything was done. All we had to do was get that one assistant volleyball coach settled.
You mentioned, you know, coming from about 20 programs to 7 in LCCC, and as I recall, the last time we had you on here, you know, you got about a 5-year plan as the new athletic director over at Laramie County Community College. I think we could take that tag off, the new athletic director now at LCCC. Let's take tags off. But looking at 20 programs here, high school ranks, 7 on the JUCO side, and again, a lot of funding comes from our state legislature to help in a lot of these programs that we function with here at LCCC. And again, I'm sure you have some great supporters out there now that are helping our athletic programs. Have you had that opportunity to diagram, map out a possibility, and I'll just throw it out there, golf, track, anything like that right now? Or again, is that part of let's move 2-3 years down the road?
That's so. What I told our president, Joe Schaefer, is I promised him not to talk to him about adding things until we get into the new rack. Now we're going to still have that conversation. In the time I've been there, I've either being at Rotary Kiwanis or out in the public or even on the campus, I've had people ask me about softball, golf, cross country, wrestling, and there's one other one there that I know that I'm missing right now. But those are 4 or 5 of the sports that we would be looking at and considering. And again, that's just something that you have to look at down the road. What's feasible? What's cost effective? What's going to, at the end of the day, so now as I did make that shift, I'm very aware that any addition has to be looked at what the ROI is, and the return on investment for adding an athletic team is how many seats are you going to add in classrooms? Because if I'm just taking and pulling from the general population and adding a sport, there's no ROI there. We still had those people on campus to begin with. But when you start adding seats, so you add X team, people can fill in whatever they want to for whatever that sport is. One, is it cost effective? I know that we just added, when in the high school, we just several years ago added softball. Well, we know from the papers and everything, it was going to be about a $60,000 to $70,000 cost at each of the 3 high schools in the Cheyenne is what it was estimated. Okay, so if we're going to add, let's just say that over at LCCC, how many players are we adding? How many people are we adding to that? Again, I believe athletics at LCCC adds a component of the possibility of international students and people from outside of this area that you're bringing into the community. So, so you asked me originally, and I took the long way to get there. Do I have a 4-year plan? I actually did have a 4-year plan going in, and we've kind of broken it up into let's survive in advance like a basketball tournament. Let's get into the rack and see where we are, see what our needs are there. I told anybody else, too, that before I consider adding a program, I want to make sure what we have is a good product. You don't want to become mediocre at a bunch of things. We have 7. And I think we're doing a really good job right now. Let's see what deficiencies we have in those programs, and then go from there.
Get past terminology. Get past again the at least looking at the analytics and the monies, and basically this is more so of wishful thinking for you, Mark. Of again, we get the new rack in, we're all settled, everything's fine and dandy. If you had that kind of wish list, or again something could be granted to you, what is that sport that you would love to see added during your time? Again, you mentioned, again, the wrestlings, the softballs of the world. Heck, again, we know there's JUCO football. There is baseball as well, too, especially played here in Region 9. What are one sport or a couple that you want to get if you had that wish list?
Well, you're not going to pin me down on one. A nice try. But, here's the thing. So what would be the most demand? Well, all right, you know that several of the Region 9 schools do have wrestling, all right, but now you got to go ahead and store the pads, you got to get the pads, you have to go ahead and there's a lot of equipment there. Softball has been one that's been brought to me, and I'm just picking every single one just so you know where we stand on that. That's great. We don't have a softball field, so we would have to look off the campus to figure that out. Now, the community does have a lot of facilities, and again, because it would be a fall sport being in the junior college, that's a little easier. Now we don't have to dance around the high schools to compete with them with facilities. Golf, just talk about that one for a second. That's a great one because in 91 and 92, those were national championship teams. We just inducted those wild bunch of Canadians that were on those teams into the Hall of Fame back in August. That would be great. Okay, well, where's the golf course on that one? Well, again, there's several thoughts, there's proposals that there might be one out there. Cross country would honestly be the easiest one because I could go outside and there's my practice facility. There's not a lot of equipment, and like I said, you can do that around here. So I don't want to really sidestep your question because being a nonpartisan, I really want to say I would like any of those sports, but I really need to see where would we get the most bang for our buck and what does the constituency really want. Not necessarily. I'm pretty sure if my boss or Joe came up and said, "Mark, you get one," well, then I got to go ahead and start talking to people. Where are we going to draw the biggest interest? And part of that is, somebody actually even brought up football. Okay, well, we're going to Kansas every time. I mean, there's nothing nearby for us to play. We're going to be going south and east to go find games.
Again, you talk about national championship as well, too, with the golf banners. Again, do want to make note as well, too. Again, esports, again, newly added. Again, recent champions with them on the national side. So congrats to them. Again, that was last season. Again, they will be recognized, I do believe, coming over if, again, were recognized this past weekend. But either way, you do have esports added on top of that. But I want to get into where right now, here we are a few weeks away from kind of the end of at least the first year for you of the athletic term over there at LCCC. Men's and women's soccer, successful. Again, still waiting for that national championship. Hopefully that will come soon with the new head coaches. Volleyball improved from years past. We're seeing basketball, both men and women right now, kind of do their thing and find a lot of success. We will see what happens when it comes to the Region 9 tournament here in a few short weeks. But state of athletics in your mind, Mark, right now here in 22-23, at least in my opinion, it feels pretty damn healthy right now for LCCC.
I think we're definitely on the up with all the programs. You yourself said both soccer teams. I mean, Jim Gardner, what a salesman. When he first signed on, he said, Mark, you realize we're going to start off 0-6. And I think he said 0-7. And I said, well, Jim, I already hired you, so I can't get rid of you after that statement. But here's the thing. Yeah, he started off, and then they end up making a run. You beat the number 2 team, Seminole State here, and the district was nice enough to let us use the soccer field over at Johnson, which is the only turf field that is regulation size for Region 9. Fernando did a great job in his interim year with the men, and I'm looking forward to see how he goes with everything else. Zach came in with volleyball, and it was, I think he was able to bring in 2 people, but it was pretty much somebody else's roster. And yet he saw some really good success there and got a couple wins up at the region tournament up in Casper. Esports, lightning in a bottle last year, get a national championship. And you're right on both counts. We were going to recognize them last week. We are going to be recognizing them at halftime of the men's game on the 23rd. So that'll be pretty neat to get them out there and finally get them that recognition. And then, we still got a little bit of time to see how we're going to recognize the 3 national championship teams in the new rack. Whether it's banners, plaques, or whatever. So,
Mark, you mentioned the new rack, and again, matter of fact, when the talk is about Laramie County Community College, it is about the new rack, and I think about all those great dorms that were built, and again, when they were constructed, and watching how meticulous it was to put them together for our student athletes and students. But I look at your situation with the rack, and I know. You've seen the drawings, you've seen the visions, and you're seeing the actual work being done on it. Is it almost like watching a new home be built? Can you feel that excitement each and every day you go to work?
Yes. The only difference is there's a lot of more parents involved in making the decisions, and I know Scott Noble once told me a long time ago, he said that when he made the transition, just how many more meetings there are. And I've talked with him since then. That was without doing the renovation project. I literally just came from one, and I'm about to go to another one. And that's the thing. Now, it is like you're building a house and you get to see it. And I find myself with a hard hat signing in, walking through. We were able to take had a staff meeting last week, and I was able to take a bunch of the coaches through so they could actually see, especially that area over by where the pool was. They've knocked out some of those walls, and you can see that area. They filled it in. And it's just so every time you go in, you are starting to see those changes. And I think that's going to be more and more as you go forward. I definitely don't want to be a stranger to that building because you definitely want to take a look and see how it's changing. The real neat one will be when they start to do all the work for that 2-story area where the locker rooms and the staff will be for the athletic department.
When this rack is eventually finished, and again, we talk about soccer getting renovated. Again, it's one of the beautiful sites. Again, the all-natural grass. Again, new scoreboards up there. Again, we have new dorms. We're talking about the new rack getting implemented. Also, too, let's not forget, again, the rodeo arena, one of the unique spots here in Region 9 that, again, Seth Glaus, again, his team calls home for those events here. Again, when that rack gets done, is it safe to say, or again, what does it bring to the table for athletics for LCCC? Do we all of a sudden just become that mecca here in Region 9 of, look at, it's brand new and it's beautiful and it's all set and ready for athletes to come into these doors?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a huge recruiting tool, not just for the round ball sports that are playing there, but for just students in general, is that it's another huge draw for a look at this recreation activity center that we're going to be having. You go from having a workout area that used to be this room off to the side that you had a few machines and stuff in, to this beautiful workout center with, I believe, over 50 pieces of just cardio equipment, let alone all the half racks and full racks for training for the athletes. You're going to have 20 pieces of machine weights and duplicates. So you have 2 things of 10, the exact same thing. So again, that's another draw for the general student that can go on in there and use. You know, we're going to have, you asked for the big draw. The fact is we're going to have a competition floor that the ceiling height is going to be high enough where we can now host regional competitions there for both volleyball and basketball. For tournaments, if you ever want to host things that are not necessarily collegiate but other things, we're going to have 2 competition floors. The former main event area that will be the auxiliary gym now, and then what we have now will be the new competition center. The meeting I just got out of right now was the planning committee would do it weekly, but they're talking about the bleachers, and we're going to have the Champions Lounge up on the west side, which is about 1,800 square feet. That'll be on top, and we're looking at the different faces of that, if it's going to be solid glass from top to bottom, if we're going to have like a bar stool up top where you can overlook and remove the glasses so you can actually still hear and be a part of the experience. So that goes back to what you were saying, Larry, that it's just a neat experience that you were going through right now.
Well, you know, too, Nick, when you asked Mark that question, as you responded, I'm thinking of our trips to North Platte, where you look up there and here's all that athletic equipment, all the cardio, or over at Eastern Wyoming and Torrington, or even Sterling when we were at NJC. They're all these workout things. It just adds to that flavor of just not a gymnasium. It is a complete facility. And again, like I said, I can hear it in your voice, the excitement. I want to move on, though, past that excitement, kind of throw you with Laramie County School District number 1 right now, where they have been just absolutely marvelous to LCCC from the volleyball standpoint and from the basketball standpoint. I'm sure you got a box of candy for everybody over there at Laramie County School District number 1 administration. But talk about that relationship, how it just continues to blossom.
Well, and I think that was probably one of the pros to having me step in that role, is I did have the relationship with them, you know, and we've gone through. We will have been at 8 different facilities for our practices this year, which is, you know, for Dwayne and Ayan, our 2 basketball coaches, I love both of them to death. They've been, and it's frustrating. I'm not going to lie to you.
You're on the road every time out.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not an easy thing, and the only thing I can emphasize with anybody that is going through the consternation of that is that, you know, long before I got there, this was on the roadmap. The school and the athletic department knew that you're going to be shuffled around, and we're going to be depending on Laramie County School District number 1 to help us through this process. And what I would offer to anybody that is going through the heartache is, gang, picture us if we were somewhere else and we didn't have Story Gymnasium, or we didn't have a partner like Laramie County School District that was willing to open up their doors and help us in any way they can. Now, that's not to say that's without heartache. You know, this morning I had a basketball out there and let them in, and we're good to go. But these are the things that we face every single day. And it's not because they're not willing to do it. It's just things happen. You know, I mean, and if there's only one good thing that we got out of COVID is how to take a left at the last second. And you're all, you know, how to pivot, how to change directions without any notice. And so that period with us is kind of extending, and I think they're just going to be looking forward to some normalcy.
I remember asking you when we used to do pregame shows and talking with our athletic directors back in the high school days, where, you know, we get to about week 4, week 5 of the season, and student athletes might be in jeopardy of, you know, with grades and stuff. Is the athletic director's position in the collegiate level similar to the high school? Do you have an idea of GPAs and say, hey, Coach Salisbury, you know, Nick is under the Mendoza line. We got to pick it up here. And what's available to these student athletes?
We have a counselor by the name of Tyler Garrison, and his duties are just with the student athletes. He has been such a tremendous asset to us as far as being able to work with them. He's in constant contact with the coaches, not only in keeping watching their eligibility, where Vince Gibson, our assistant AD, and myself don't have to be as hands-on-ish with that, but the coaches take a big role for this. The coaches have them in weekly, sometimes bi-weekly study halls that are mandatory. It's really neat how they do this. And I will, you asked me how much do I stay up on it. Here's where I stay up on it, and this is all on the coaches and Tyler, none of this is on me, is our athletic department GPA was a 3.09 for every single student athlete in the program. And that's over a quarter point. They were right at a 2.75 at the same time last year. So just over a quarter point rise in that. And again, I would love to sit here and tell you how smart I am, how great I am, and how I had nothing to do with that. That's all on the coaches and on.
And back in the day,
Tyler.
that was a B. So that's not doing too bad for. And again, what you ask, well, I should say what you asked, but what is asked of the student athletes, especially we've been on those long road trips and we saw the laptops open. So again, I believe both our men and women, especially when we were doing the basketball side, really keep up on their schoolwork, because again, it is important to them, because they do want to get that associate's degree out of LCCC and move on and eventually get a bachelor's or even move on to a master's.
Yeah, and anytime they can, and if they do endeavor to go on and play at the next level, whatever that might be, listen, the fact is the higher your GPA is, that it makes you more recruitable, and the more opportunities you have for any type of, not just athletic scholarship, but regular scholarships beyond now as well.
Mark, you mentioned Vince Gibson, who, again, former head coach of the men's soccer program, who is kind of taking some time being associate athletic director, again, a couple seasons ago when we had that void, again, now officially as the associate, at least athletic director, again, under your kind of tutelage right now, Mark. But talk about him as an ally for you. Again, he is very familiar with LCCC athletics. He is familiar with, again, what it takes, again, on the collegiate level. But talk about what he kind of brings to the table and how much help he brings for you, Mark.
Well, I'll tell you the biggest help is that at times I don't know if I'm under him or he's under me as far as who's learning more from who. The biggest thing he has is his experience at LCCC and at the junior college level. You know, if I don't know it and he doesn't know it, at least one of us knows somebody to reach out to and get the answers from. And it is a learning process for both of us. You know, we went to a new athletic directors conference back in the summertime when I first got the job, and there's a conference coming up here in April that I'm hoping we can both get on out to, because I would love to go to every single committee meeting for not only the sports that we have, but for the ones that we were kind of throwing out before. And I actually just talked to the NJCAA yesterday to make sure if I do go there, that I can go to every single one of those meetings, because for me, I don't know anybody there. I know every single high school athletic director in the state of Wyoming and some of the bordering states as well, but I have got to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can.
Mark, I want to get into community involvement, which, again, is big with LCCC, which is gotten the bad rap over years. Again, it was always known as Last Chance Community College here in town, and again, it's tucked away far south of town. But here now, especially with our athletic programs being here at Story Gymnasium, we know there's been a recent push of, again, community involvement, looking at, again, some hosting races. We know, especially here in the basketball, at least season, where, again, recently with at least cancer awareness, again, donating that money. The Blue and Gold Bash happening as well, too, finally getting that underway. But talk about community involvement and kind of your direction to bring LCCC to Cheyenne to, again, make a kind of cohesive relationship.
Well, you hit on all of them. The nice thing is it started off with Kicks for Kids that they got on out there, and they were helping with that 5K they did downtown, and all the coaches came on out and were just serving the food afterwards. You know, both the teams wanted to do a pink out. We were able to stretch it over a couple nights, which was nice, because I think we got a check of over $1,600 to the Cheyenne Cancer Center. So you do things like that. Yeah, the Blue and Gold Bash is really neat because, of course, you know, I don't want to think that Mother Nature just reserves its wrath for sporting events. It does reserve it for beautiful fundraisers, too. And it was snowing that night. We were actually wondering if that was going to... It didn't. If it had an effect on it, it was negligible because they had an online platform for to bid on things. It was really, for a first-time event, there are just a few minor things that we'll do differently next time. I think the one big note is that instead of being in January and on the heels of Lariats and Lace, we are pretty much we're sure it's probably going to be a late September item, and we'll probably play that around the University of Wyoming football schedule, because we want to make sure that we don't make people make a choice. We want people to support the University of Wyoming, but guess what? We want you to be here too.
You know, I like how Nick mentioned, you know, hey, we're far south of town. Pretty soon, Laramie County Community College might be downtown, and we might be on the north side. We might be in the extreme north. The way that's growing out there, you got to be very pleased with that, and especially students or student athletes that are going to be attending. My final question to you, Mark, and again, I'm always curious what an athletic director's involvement is in the next level. And let's use a kid like Xavier McCord, or and again, I'm glad that a lot of our locals have been able to move on to that next level. But X is going to go to that next level. Dwayne and Coach Mack, they're superb coaches where they can move those kids to the next level. Where do you come in when X sits down and signs on the dotted line and he goes to so-and-so? Are you a little bit of a negotiator with an athletic director? Do you kind of offer some advice? What's your role in that?
Any way I can support this. That's all coaches. Coaches do such a good job of not only fielding the phone calls when they come, the recruiters that come in, but actually reaching out to places that they think they'll be a fit. I don't think using Xavier and Coach Salisbury, I don't think Dwayne is going to try to reach out to a place where Xavier wouldn't fit in. I think he wants him to set him up for success at the next level, whatever that might be, whatever program that might be. That's the nice thing about having a coach that's been around for over a decade is he's established those relationships at the next level beyond LCCC, so he can help it out. My role in that is if an AD did have a question, maybe about character, maybe about anything that is off of or outside of X's and O's or off the floor, I'd be more than happy to talk with them about that. I obviously have seen and known of both McCords since they were in high school. So from that standpoint, I have seen them a little bit longer than what a normal athletic director would have if they were just at the school. So mine is more of a support role. The coaches work so hard down there. It's amazing.
Mark, as we look to the next couple of months for you, again, we have the off-season upcoming here for LCCC Athletics. We still have a little bit more basketball and, again, a potential, hopefully, Region 9 at least tournament happening here in town with the men's side. But, as we look past March, going into April, again, that summertime, what's kind of game plan, schedule look like for you? Again, you talk about the upcoming conferences, but are we just kind of more focused on trying to get RAC all situated and finalized? Again, kind of outline what's on your kind of plate for, again, the off season.
Well, as we get to the off season, we finish off basketball. We have esports just got started about 2 weeks ago. Our spring rodeo season starts out, I believe, on the 17th of March, right in there up in Gillette. I know is their first one up there. But as we get past that and we head towards the summer, before we get to the summer, one thing we did is we sat down, myself and the Golden Eagle Club, we sat down and we wanted to put everything on a calendar because this year was just because of the being displaced and all that other fun stuff. We were just kind of making stuff up as we went. And some of that you have to do, but we already going into next year, I already know that the 6th and 7th are going to be our pink out nights for soccer and volleyball. That's the weekend. They'll both be in town. We can do that with both groups and then finally do it at the end, wrap it up and get a check out, probably to the Cheyenne Cancer Center. We're already looking at when our alumni games are going to be for the soccer team. We have our first Hall of Fame meeting coming up here on Monday. I'm a little bit behind on that by about a week or so, but we'll get that settled. But going into next year, I want to make sure before we leave, technically for the summer I don't leave anymore, but I want to have the whole schedule, not only for those events, but I want to be able to sit down with Laramie County School District and get all the practice just settled. And I want to, because it's easy, Jerry, Chad, and Wendy, they're in the process of sharing with me all their story needs for games next year. Once we do that, then I want to go sit down with the district schedule and say, all right, what spelling bees, orchestras, all those math competitions, all those science fairs, whatever else occupies story, I need to get that on the calendar now before the end of March. So when Dwayne and Ayana go to solidify their schedule, they're not scheduling it on top of things. And, some of the people of the district already even said that, listen, if we know that you are up against something and we know now in March, April, that a spelling bee is on a day that you wanted to have a game, well, now we can move it back a day. So it's nice to see their willingness to, first of all, they're willing to put up with us for a year plus, but they're willing to also accommodate us in those ways too. So that's really refreshing.
Mark Puev, Athletic Director at Laramie County Community College, join us here inside the Pro Show. We are going to take a break. We're going to allow Mark to go off to more meetings because that's the exciting part of his day. And we will be back with more right here on 1480 KRA.
17 years in the community and still striving to offer you the best value in a new vehicle. AJ Miller here for Kia of Cheyenne. Take a look at the new 2023 Kia Sorento. With the 2023 Kia Sorento, you have a choice of 3 models, 8 different trims, and 4 different all-weather drive modes. Some available features include 281 horsepower, 20-inch wheels, remote start, and climate control. Come into Kia of Cheyenne, call 775-0123 or go to kiaofcheyenne.com and we'll make it easy.
Tired of choosing between errands and adventures? Platte Valley Bank can help you take care of everything without missing anything. Next time you get a check, just sign, snap, and send the money directly into your account with mobile deposit. We can't fill your fridge, but we can save you a trip to the bank. Mark another errand off your list and get back to life. Platte Valley Bank, you belong here.
Platte Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Hop into the K-Ray Time Machine each Monday through Thursday for the golden age of radio, featuring famous radio classics such as Jack Armstrong and Suspense Theater, along with pioneers in the entertainment industry like Bob Hope and Abbott and Costello, along with many other performers who've captured our ears many, many years ago. Join us for the golden age of radio Monday through Thursday, 8 until 10 p.m. on 1480 K-Ray, also 101.1 FM, and you can also stream all of our programming on 1480kray.com.
Winter driving in Wyoming. Are you prepared? Winter storms strike quickly across Wyoming's high plains and the mountains. When they do, driving conditions can deteriorate rapidly and become very challenging. Make sure your vehicle is ready for the elements and you have an emergency preparedness kit available. Driving on slick roads, always remember slower speed, acceleration, steering, and braking. Also turn off the cruise control and always buckle up. Ice and snow. Take it slow. Know before you go. For travel info, call 511 or online at wyoroad.info. Paid for by Federal Highway Safety Funds. Now that the colder weather is upon us, it's more important than ever to make sure that your brakes on your vehicle are operating at 100%. So if you noticed a grinding or squeaky noise every time you brake, then it's high time you stop into the brake stop at 1622 East Lincoln Way, where Wayne and his crew will fit your car or truck with the best brakes to go along with best service and the best price. Wherever your travels take you, and whatever weather conditions Mother Nature throws at you, you can always feel confident that the brakes on your vehicle came from the brake stop. Call 307-514-6231 or drop by to 1622 East Lincoln Way in Cheyenne. MHP is a certified public accounting and consulting firm located in Bow, Cheyenne, and Fort Collins, offering accounting, tax, and consulting services to businesses, not-for-profit, government, and individual clients. MHP takes pride in their commitment to providing close, personal attention to their clients. They also continue to invest time and resources in continuing education, state-of-the-art computer technology, and valuing their relationships with you. MHP is a proud supporter of local and UW athletics. MHP, 314 West 18th Street, or call 634-2151. There may be a chill in the air, but the action is always hot and heavy at the 3 locations of Wyoming Downs in the Cheyenne Plaza, inside the Outlaw Saloon on the South Greeley Highway, and on Delrange Boulevard next to Culver's and Office Depot. You can watch and place your pari-mutuel wager on a variety of simulcast horse races from the nation and the world's tracks. And check out the excellent selections of games offered by Wyoming Downs, where you can win a lot of cash. Remember to pick up your player's card and enjoy Triple Points Monday and Club 55 midweek, along with other specials. Win big today and bring your friends to Wyoming Downs in the Cheyenne Plaza, inside the Outlaw Saloon on the South Greeley Highway, and at 1345 Delrange Boulevard. For more information, go to wydowns.com.
Here's the latest weather forecast on 1480 K-Ray.
Weather-wise for today, a high wind warning has been issued. Increasing clouds with a chance of snow developing this afternoon. Temperatures in the middle 20s. Windy conditions. Westerly winds at 30 to 40, gusting as high as 60. For tonight, mostly cloudy and windy. Northerly winds at 25 to 30, gusting as high as 40. Snow likely mainly after midnight. Our low dropping down to 7 degrees. New snow accumulation less than a half inch possible. And for tomorrow, Wednesday, mostly cloudy, continued blustery, with a pretty good chance for snow. Look for a daytime high near 13 degrees. Northerly winds 20 to 25, gusting as high as 35. And welcome back to the Pro Show. I'm Larry Proietti, along with Nick Proietti, as we head into the home stretch. And again, we want to remind you, and matter of fact, I just see on my reminder list here from Jerry. Jerry Slabs, hey, are you guys doing East versus South?
I already answered back, so again.
Yeah.
Don't overstep what I'm doing.
I
right
know,
now.
but I'm just saying, want to remind everybody that East and South are tomorrow or at Story Gym. We will be there 6 and 7:30.
It's not Friday as, again, my schedule originally said. Again, that's from preseason, so obviously things change. So, again, we now have definitive that it's tomorrow, 6 and 7:30 here live on 1480 AM, 101.1 FM, 1480KRadio.com on the audio side. Video live streaming as we do on the 1480KRadio YouTube channel. Again, South versus East times 2. Girls up first, boys up second. They're live from Story Gymnasium as, again, we continue on regular season basketball here in the state of Wyoming. This is one of 2 final weekends here before we hit at least early March on the road up in Casper for the East Regional Tournament up there at Natrona County. But as we talk and move away from LCCC, again, wanted to spend this last couple of minutes here. We have not talked yet boys action, again, 4A, 2A. Again, as we look at the weekend that was, Friday's action for us, again, it was East versus Campbell County. David alluded to it, again, when we had him on. Again, thanks to David Settle joining us earlier on the program. Campbell County's got their healthy pieces back. They gave Cheyenne East a hell of a run in that contest, gave them a scare. East thankfully came away, and I guess plain and simple, the recap, again, my thoughts of that boys contest, they're live at the Thunderdome. Kaiser Jolly, we've been, at least I've been kind of tough on the guy going, hey, you got to step up. You are the big man. You got to establish that presence on the inside. Again, the games that we have seen him in, he's been there, but it's been kind of a quiet presence. This Friday night, he stepped it up, both sides of the floor, again, defense and offense. Defense, really, he was a rebound machine. Kaiser Jolly has really accepted that big man role, has really at least kind of stepped it up, especially with the Coulter McAnally injury right now to Cheyenne East. I give him kudos. He really, again, he's one of the key contributors to that win on Friday night.
All right, well, you made a very good point. I'm not going to disagree with you. And he's going to match up again with somebody his size coming up on Friday after they play
Friday.
As they take on Laramie. Again, he'll have the height advantage against Cheyenne South. One thing that we saw, and matter of fact, I was talking with a friend of mine at coffee about this morning, when Jolly went down early in the first quarter.
You kind of you held your breath because it's like, oh no, what's going to happen now? Because again, if you lose Kaiser Jolly, you lose that height advantage, and this East team, again, that bench that again is got some issues.
It's weak.
It's something that for Cheyenne East, you got a little worried if again another Thunderbird were to go down. Thankfully, Kaiser Jolly immediately back up, got to work on by the training staff there at Cheyenne East, and again was back on the floor and again had a hell of a performance against Campbell County. Give credit though to the Camels. They are a threatening, they are a talented bunch. They get some outside shooting. Again, that was similar to the Lady Camels. This is a team that is deadly from the land of three. If they start getting going, you worry of, here we go. When is it going to end for the outside shooting for Campbell County? Again, they are a team absolutely in Class 4A on the boys' side to keep an eye out in that East Regional Tournament. Can they steal a spot from, again, a Laramie, from a South, whoever it may be, to get into that state tournament? Without a doubt.
Yeah, but let me go back to the Cheyenne East side now, okay? And again, this is no slam on those kids that come off the bench. Again, Bowman, good kid. Rail, good kid. Angela Leonard, who had some options. But they're not guys that are impact players. Again, you go back to when Coulter McAnally was with the team before his injury. You had Cam Hayes come off the bench, 15 points, easily. And again, his role was about, 20, 25, maybe 20 minutes of the 32. You got him out there now for 32. But when Jolly went down, you saw that team turn a different corner because Droob for Gillette, the sophomore, was 6'5". He was the biggest kid out there. And
he was making a difference as well, too.
Yeah, and again, East is a total different team. And obviously when you lose a big man, that makes a lot of difference. But when you lose two big men and your subs coming off the bench now are 6 foot, 5'10", 6 foot,
It kind of puts you in the conversation again with Cheyenne South, where again their difficulty right now this season is being undersized without a doubt. South is a competitive team, but again the size is just what's killing right now the Fighting Bison. But for Cheyenne East, thankfully did not lose Kaiser Jolly. And again, it's weird to say all this stuff regarding the Thunderbirds, who again right now are the shining spot here in the Eastern Conference. They're 16-2, undefeated in the quadrant. Again, the similar mark of Riverton, the Wolverines, who are right now number 2 in the WyoPreps Class 4A media and coaches poll. But for Cheyenne East, yeah, they got their difficulties. Again, the bench play is questioned right now. Could spell disaster for postseason play for them. Again, whether it is, again, the East Regional Tournament, or again, if they make it to the state tournament. Again, I think they should. I think East is that comfortable on the boys' side, should make it to the state tournament. Looking at scores very quickly, as again we're running out of time here. Hold on again as we'll look at Friday's scores to give you kind of again a size of how things went this weekend. Boys side, Natrona County defeating Laramie in Laramie 58-53. East, as we mentioned again, winning over Campbell County 67-62. Sheridan defeating Cheyenne South 72-31, and Thunder Basin winning over Cheyenne Central in a close fashion 48-46. Central, I got concerns right now with the Indians. This is a team that I thought, was state tournament bound. They also do have issues with their bench play, again, losing talent earlier in the season. Similar to East with Colter McAnally, I think East is in a little bit better position, especially with the talent and the height that they have compared to, again, Cheyenne Central. But Central right now, I got concerns, similar to the Lady Indians, of can they make it out of that East Regional Tournament? Right now, it's kind of feeling more and more as a tall task. Central, same to Cheyenne East, has an opportunity to get very healthy this weekend. Again, taking on Laramie and eventually Cheyenne South on Saturday.
Well, see, here with Central, and I'll throw this out there for the Indians. Good. Glad that you got it out of your system. Now you got a couple of weeks to clean it up. That's the easiest way to put it. You stumbled a little bit. Now you got, and matter of fact, think about it. Your only road trip is where? To Story Gym.
Laramie.
No, Laramie comes here.
Yeah, that's right.
Your only road, you're in home for your next 3 games. Here's your chance to pick it up. If Jim Schaefer can't get this team motivated here in Cheyenne, then they got problems in the regional. But again,
got them motivated on Saturday. Looking at those scores very quickly on the boys' side, Sheridan defeating Laramie 83-62. Central defeating that Campbell County team pretty handily at the Fieldhouse 75-56. Natrona County defeating Cheyenne South 59-43. East winning over Thunder Basin 55-41. So, again, Central did get healthy on Saturday, defeating that Campbell County team. But, again, the inconsistencies, the up and down play, and, again, we know what this Indians team is made of. Again, chance for them to get healthy. They do run into the gauntlet of, again, Cheyenne East at Story Gymnasium, where, again, we saw what happened. They were competitive. One careless foul at the end decided it in favor of the Thunderbirds. But again, it was a close effort for the Indians. But again, with this Indians team, I'm not as bleak as I am with them compared to the Lady Indians right now. But there are concerns. Can Central make it to the state tournament? Yes, I think they can, and I think they should. Is this a Indians team under Coach Schaefer that should win the state championship? I don't see it because, again, I right now I put Riverton in front of them, put Cheyenne East in front of them, and you look out into the northeast quadrant, Sheridan maybe? I'd probably put Sheridan in front of Cheyenne Central, and that's about it.
Yeah,
again, I would say,
decent,
that's probably the teams that are vying for a state championship. Central's kind of that fringe team. We'll see if they can string together, again, few solid wins here, see how they react on, again, in Casper at Natrona County in the East Regional Tournament. But right now, it's taken a lot for at least Indians to prove to me of what they can do if they can be considered, at least in my mind, a state championship contender. Because right now, there's a few other teams that stand kind of well above them.
No, again, I look at the Thunderbirds, this state championship, and again, we didn't see Riverton, so we're not going to diss on Riverton. This one
give
is
Riverton a lot of respect. I think they're number 2 for a reason.
Yeah, this is one for them to lose if they, and again, I've seen good East teams over the years, a little more talented than this one on the floor right now, and just go up to the state tournament, lay an egg. I would hope this momentum that, again, I think this weekend was a huge weekend for the Thunderbirds, getting both Thunder Basin, and Gillette. They have
needed those wins. Yeah.
They've completed the sweep against the Northeast. Now, again, got to go to Casper Natrona and play the regionals there. If they come out of the regionals as the number 1 seed, I'm going to feel pretty good about them being state champions. Okay?
Again, I do worry, though, regarding East as well. And again, same with Cheyenne Central, same with Cheyenne South, to put them in the conversation. But again, for East, we go back a couple years ago, again, regarding that regional tournament where what happened? East took on, again, granted it was Kelly Walsh at Kelly Walsh due to, again, the regional tournament happening up there, up in Casper, which, again, moved one of those games away from the Swede. But, again, look what happened of the shock of you went and played at Kelly Walsh, got shocked by Kelly Walsh. And I worry that, again, Natrona, who has proven so far, again, we saw it last weekend. We'll see what happens coming up this weekend. But, again, Natrona County at home, pretty damn feisty, and you worry of a team like that could pull off, again, the shock upset to, again, one of our schools that, again, we talk about the bench play. If teams, again, including Cheyenne East, if players run into that foul difficulty or have that off night, could a Natrona, especially at home hosting this thing, or could a Thunder, could a Campbell, could a Sheridan shock East or Central just due to the fact of the lack of kind of bench options right now for both coaches?
Well, being home is one extra win for Natrona. So does that get him into the state championship? Don't know. We'll see how that pans out. But again, also too, and again, I've called a lot of games out of there. That's a tough place to play. So again, for Natrona hosting, we'll see. We'll see how they progress through.
East again getting healthy. Central again 1-for-1. Going 1-1 this past weekend. Both will have an opportunity to get very healthy this weekend. Seeing Laramie, seeing Cheyenne South. So again, we'll see what at least happens before their big matchup of East versus Central to round out the regular season before we head into that East regional tournament. Moving down to Class 2A very quickly as we have a few minutes left here on today's show. Pine versus Burns. Burns was a little bit more competitive than what we saw at Burns. I'll give them credit to that, but did not expect them to play, or at least did not expect them to compete against
Foul difficulty for Pine. That right there was, I thought, very critical.
But Pine still won, and won pretty healthy against the Burns Bronx. So again, foul difficulty contribute to the final at least score in a way. But again, it wasn't a complete blowout. It was what we saw a few weekends ago out in Burns. But either way, though, Pine, you expected to win. They won, had a little up and down, at least play in that contest, but still, they are the dominant team right now in the Southeast Quadrant. I'd still consider them as the dominant team in Class 2A, not even just the East, but also to looking to the West. They are defending 2A state champs from last season. Pine Bluffs, again, if they keep healthy, keep out of foul difficulty, if they shore things up here, again, what's stopping this Pine Bluffs Hornets team?
And you feel for a Colin Jessen. Again, he's one of the bigger kids, and he definitely had one of those off days. But he also was in foul difficulty. Stu Lorick was in foul difficulty, and yet they got the job done. What can you say about the Farnstrom kid? My goodness, he's a magician out there.
He's got a motor.
He is unbelievable. And again, for Burns, and you look at Coach Suloff's team, you feel for them. Again, they don't have any height.
They're undersized, similar to South.
Cody Hape is at 6'3", but again, they don't expect a lot out of him. They want him to be a board guy. Lakin has been struggling.
Jared Allen,
he's
a shiny spot. Yeah, he's a shiny spot.
Quarter. Yeah. Piasecki didn't have a great game either, and that was tough for them as well. So and Carter David, 6'2". You got him running inside, and he's battling the Loricks of the world and the Jessens.
Burns and South are on the same vein right now. Where again, in a game that height is so critical, the lack of height is killer, and it was killer, and it's going to be killer right now for the Burns Bronx. Who right now, again, looking at the standings on the boys' side, Pine 18-2 overall, 3-0 in the quadrant. Lingle Fort Laramie behind them at 13-6, 3-1 in the quadrant. Lost 5-13, 1-3 in quadrant, and Burns right now in last place in that quadrant due to, again, the quadrant record. They are 6-15, 1-4 in the quadrant. Burns, again, same to Cheyenne South. Height is a necessity in these levels. And again, with Pine having that clear height advantage over Burns, they took care of business pretty handily in the inside. They were getting those offensive and defensive rebounds pretty handily. Burns struggled. The benefit, right, or at least again in that contest for Burns to have an opportunity was the foul difficulty or the foul troubles that the Hornets were finding themselves into. But again, still didn't play all that much of a factor. Hornets have just got that unbelievable talented team.
They're the Hornets. What we saw too, and you tip your cap to them. Talk about an opportunistic team, and I'm not talking just Fornstrom. We saw Schaefer out there. We saw Stu Lorig's brother Justin out there. Slade when he came off the bench. You go right down. Alex Sloan. Sloan again. He's a starter for this team. But what he does is so unique. He makes sure that he's got the basketball. Lorik or Justin is going to get it.
Yeah.
He's probably one of the top assist guys in addition to Fornstrom. So, again, just those names that I rolled off right there, this is a pretty good defensive team in addition to if you get Lorik on the floor for 32 minutes, you get Jessen on the floor for 32 minutes, and again, the night or the afternoon we saw at Pine Bluffs, probably an anomaly, but anytime you have bunnies like that, Jessen should have won at least for 25 against the Bronx. Yeah. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong on that, but either way, though, again, plain and simple, though, for Coach Kimsey, again, his Hornets got it done. Still won pretty damn comfortably against the Burns Bronx, as we thought that they were. And right now, again, continue the wave of, at least, again, of momentum that they are on right now. This is a team where right now you kind of, I want to vault them past the East Regional. Obviously, again, there's still a few regular season games to go. Still have to compete in that East Regional. Again, we've seen teams get shocked before in those regional tournaments, and most notably against Cheyenne Central a few years ago. But I feel comfortable, again, as what we've seen in the two contests that we've had with the Hornets. And again, you look at some of their final scores, and it does indicate that this team is dominating right now in Class 2A. And you feel pretty damn comfortable to say, or at least I do, that this team state tournament bound. This team should be back in that state championship. Wouldn't surprise me if the Hornets come back with, again, more championship hardware on top of, again, the football and, again, last year's 2A state championship in basketball. It would not shock me, to say the least.
And again, I was just going to say, out of the Northeast, Bighorn, you got to respect. Tongue River, you got to respect. But for the Hornets right now, and to me, at home on Saturday, I felt that was an off day for them. And look what they did. They still won by 20-plus points.
Yeah, so if they get things shored up and, again, avoid foul difficulty, again, no one's beating that team, in my honest opinion. Again, they have talent. They got the height. They got everything. This is a team that just is unbelievable of what they are accomplishing right now for Coach Kimsey. Kind of off color as well, too, again, for Saturday's contest. Wanted to bring this up, or at least kind of kid around with 80 Will Gray over there at Pine Bluffs. Get some AC or open a door in that gymnasium.
I don't think anybody expected it to be that warm on Saturday. I know they had the forecast. I think they get weather reports out there. But, that kind of reminded me of old Story Gym and having the old radiators on.
Unless that's what Pine does for a home court advantage of kind of heat out their opponents where your teams are already used to that. But, wow, again, I'm really surprised, honestly, where I kind of made at least mention of that in the pregame, again, how warm it was in that gymnasium, that – surprised we did not see more cramps or, again, kind of slowdowns of games just due to the fact, again, of dehydration, because it was really warm.
But those student-athletes are in great shape.
Well, that's good. But I'm just saying they kept well hydrated as well, too. Give kudos to those athletes and, again, the coaching staff as well, too, to make sure that they were well hydrated. I'm just saying I'm shocked we didn't see a stoppage for, again, a cramp or any issue like that, just with how hot it was in that building.
All right, repeat of the program today will air from 4 until 6 o'clock. No program tomorrow. It will be east-south from Story Gym. We'll be on there around 5:45 of the pregame. Tap time 6 p.m. That would be for the ladies. Tentative tap time. And then at 7:30.
Hopefully we're not an hour behind.
I really would like for you to do more due diligence and find out exactly what we're going to run into before we step onto these floors. But we will be courtside tomorrow.
Why are you asking me that? We know, again, JV is going to play before us.
No. We ran into senior night over at East, and, again, that took 15 minutes on both sides. Again, depending on how many seniors are on these rosters. All right, well, anyway, we are going to have both East and South tomorrow for you live here in 1480 KRA. Also, we will be video live streaming our event as well on YouTube, so do join us for that.
Reminding folks as well, too, coming up tonight, again, on top of the replay of today's Pro Show, 4 and 6 o'clock. We also do have 8 until 10 o'clock, the Golden Age of Radio, All-Star Western Theater, Meet the Press from, again, oldies from, again, 50s, 60s, around that area, again, of interviews of, again, at least political figures. So do tune in, 8 until 10 o'clock, Golden Age of Radio, again, happening here Monday, Tuesday, now not Wednesday, but again, we'll be back with Thursday's Pro.
Tomorrow we're hooping it.
Yeah.
All right. So for Nick Proietti, I'm Larry Proietti. We now return to regular programming